What's up, everybody? What's up? Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. Everybody, get in here. Everybody, let me know where you're from. Hit the like button. Say hi to everybody. We've got Angela D. Williams, the attorney from the YSL trial. She represented Little Rod in the trial. I think everyone will recognize her when we pull her up on screen. But we're just waiting for everybody to tell us where they're from. Maybe put some questions in the chat. Here comes Drama. Thank you so much for all your support and your membership and everything. Everybody knows we're getting the channel built up here, getting new members, doing more interviews. Now that the YSL trial is over, I'm not just a slave to the to the clips and everything. It was all taking that took up so much of my time. So we have more time for lives and things like that. Tennessee. We've got somebody from Tennessee. We've got somebody from Michigan. That's great. Louisville. Thanks for coming in. But yes, hello everyone. Hello everyone. St. Petersburg, Florida. Nice. There's always something good going on in Florida. But yeah, I think everybody might remember Angela's opening statement. I know a lot of people started watching the trial maybe later on, so maybe they didn't get to see it, but I was going to bring it up as kind of an introduction for her. But here we go.
So I'm attorney Angela D. Williams, and I have the privilege of representing Rodalius Ryan over there in the back. Poor, young, convenient. That's all it takes to become the target of the state. I'm going to break that down for you. Poor. Rodalius was born on a couch. Let that sink in. He was born on a couch. From day one that he was brought into this world, he has been fighting to survive. The hospital was only 5 minutes away. I don't want to throw a school under the bus or anything, but the elementary school and middle school that he went to, 98% of the children there were on free or reduced lunch. What that means is they live at the national or under the national poverty level. At one point, the Atlanta public school system was under scrutiny. They accused educators of cheating the students. The DA kept going around saying, we got to think of the children, we have to think of the children. These children are victims. The only time the state cares about poor people is when they can exploit them. For the RICO trial for APS, they got a conviction of educators. And they didn't give any of the students any.
Our cases, us sustain the judge.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And in this case, they're trying to get a teenager for RICO. Young. Growing up on Cleveland Avenue is a very dangerous, destitute place. Rodalius learned early that he needed to adapt. And he did what most teenagers and preteens do. They mimic. I remember when I was younger, growing up on social media, I used to hold up the C symbol all the time because I used to love this group called Cold Rain. It was my favorite group. I used to hashtag everything, cold rain, cold rain, cold rain. After every post, it would be cold rain. It would be rain emojis. Fortunately for me, I didn't grow up poor, so the state didn't care what I was doing. Unlike Rodalius, if I had grown up on Cleveland Avenue with all these rain emojis and C, I would have been accused of being a crypt. I would have been a gang member. They would have said that I was.
Oh, that. You can go ahead and continue now.
Thank you. They would have said my rainy emoji said some murder that happened. Convenient. Rodalius is here because when he was 15 years old, the state told this incredible tale of murder, and when you're young and you don't have the means, it's hard to refute those claims. From the age of 15, Rodalius has been in 3 different prison systems. He's been to juvenile detention because they were holding him for the murder. He went to Fulton County, waiting for the murder, and once he finally turned 18, they sent him to the Department of Correction. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people in here haven't been to prison. But if you've ever gone to prison, you would know it's overcrowded, it's underfunded, it's violent, and you have predators everywhere. And unlike maybe college or a new job, you don't get an orientation when you first go to prison to figure out how you need to do anything. Rodalius had to do what he's had to do since day one, survive in prison. And if you look at Rodalius, you can see he's maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. So he posts things. He posts things on Instagram. And I wouldn't even call them Instagram posts. I would call it a survival post. He has to boast, he has to be boastful. He has to show people, this is what I have. Because he has to protect himself. It's prison. So you put poor, young, and convenient together, and what do you have? You have the perfect scapegoat for the state. This indictment has 28 co-defendants. The prosecutors keep saying, we're trying to clean up the streets of Atlanta. We're cleaning up Fulton County. We're trying to drive crime down. You just heard me say Rodalius is in prison. The jurors got it wrong in that murder case, and they convicted him. He's going to be there for life. They're not cleaning up the streets of Atlanta. They're cleaning up the prisons. And I promise you, the people in the prison, the wardens, they know how to handle their inmates. They don't need the DA's help. They have it. Out of 65 counts in this indictment that you guys had to listen to, Rodalius is only in one count. He's only in RICO, that's it. Out of 190 overt acts, Rodalius has 8 of those acts. 3 of them are for the murder that I've already told you about. 5 of them are survivor posts. He has to do these posts so he can survive prison. So why are me and Rodalius here? Because the state was to put on a show. Rodalius is in less than 1% of this whole indictment. This reminds me of this anime named Bleach, where it's 16 seasons. Every episode is about 18, 20 episodes. Sorry, every season is 18 to 20 episodes. And they have season 4 and 5. They have these bouts. They're villains of the whole thing in season 4 and season 5. The main characters are trying to get them out of soul society. You go to season 6, you don't hear about the bounce. You go to season 7, you don't hear about the bounce. Why don't you hear about these important characters? Because they're filler characters. It's a filler season. Me and Rodalius, we're fillers. We're not integral to the story. They just drag him out of prison to jail to make this bigger than it has to be. We're basically distractions. So as a juror, what can you do to tell the state, we're not going to be distracted? We don't need to listen to filler. You come back at the end of this with a not guilty for Rodalius Ryan. You tell them we do not want to waste our time on fillers. We just want to get to substance. So I guess sit back, enjoy the show, get some popcorn, because this is not justice, this is a circus. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got people watching from the UK. We've got somebody with throwing up the Go Ducks. Go Ducks, of course. I just got my Rose Bowl ticket. We've got somebody from South Africa. We've got Cornwall, UK, Orlando. We've got a lot of people coming in here. Ohio. And then live from Atlanta, Georgia, we've got Angela D. Williams. I think it's, are you in Atlanta or are you in a suburb of Atlanta?
I'm in the suburb of Atlanta. I'm in Gwinnett County. It's about 45 minutes north.
Nice, nice. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I've always wanted to know, what was the jurors' reaction to your opening? Sometimes you can't really gauge an opening, but what were the looks on your faces? On their faces?
There were a few that were taking notes or not really paying attention. And then, sorry, I'm trying to get over a fever. And then as soon as I said the bleach thing, I saw them lean in. And I got like about 4 of their attention, like, wait, did she just mention an anime? Yes, I did.
Memorable.
Right. And then when I said the circus thing, a lot of smiles.
Yes.
I don't think anybody realized it was actually going to be this much of a circus, but yes, it was.
It definitely seemed to live up to the bill. And now you weren't there for the verdict because after Rodalius took the plea, I mean, your role in the trial ended. Where were you for the verdict? Okay,
so July of 2023, I had planned a vacation. And I thought, oh, by the end of October 2024, this case will be way like gone in the back of my rear view, whatever.
Yeah.
I did not realize that we wouldn't really get started until the end of November. And even then, I was still like, well, the state says 6 months, so that puts us at June, maybe July. If things happen, possibly September.
Mhm.
And so I was on vacation. I was on a cruise actually.
Nice, nice. Where were you? Were you the Atlantic somewhere? Or?
No, yeah, I cruised out of Puerto Rico and we went to I think St. Croix, St. Martin, Barbados. It was a bunch of islands. In fact,
Nice.
I was on an island and then when I was getting close to the ship, my Wi-Fi picked up and then it started pinging. I was like, okay, I have 100 missed messages and calls. Something big must have happened.
Yeah.
And that's how I found out my client took a plea.
Oh, okay. Okay. That was the plea. That was
Right.
the plea. So did you know ahead of time that he might be considering it?
No.
No.
No, I thought we were gonna go to the very. I was with Brian still on that. Let's go to the end. Let's go.
Yeah. So you and Leah had worked together on that, right? When did she come into the case?
Not until May of 2024.
Okay.
But I had several people helping me in the background, and she was one of the people who was helping me in the background.
Right, and because I remember when she showed up, she represented you when you were trying to leave the case, and then you were trying to get more money from the state, right? Can you talk about your problems with that?
Right. So initially, this case for GPDC, Georgia Public Defender Council, they were paying $1,500. Of course, nobody was taking that.
Yeah.
And then they went up to $7,500. And at the time, that's my ignorance. I didn't know who Young Thug was. And so I assumed that, okay, this is must be a local rapper or whatever. So, I mean, it can't be that long. And then once the case got started with the jury hardships and everything, that's when I realized, oh, he is an international entertainer. I was like, this might be a problem. I was like, okay, well, I just started my law firm. I could probably go like 6 months without having to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when April kind of hit, I was like, oh no, this 7,500 is not going to work. I'm going to need way more money. That's when I think we thought it was going to take about a year. So I thought at the end of the 2023, we would be done. And I was like, I can't go a whole year for 7,500. Like, I can't do that. And so we talked to them some more. They kept saying, no. And then I had to go to the media. And then that's when they started giving us the $5,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that when you made the joke about you were thinking about maybe making an OnlyFans account?
I did, but I didn't. Everybody thinks I said that in court. I know where to say it. I definitely said it outside across the street from the courthouse.
Yeah, it was during an interview with a TV station, right?
Right. It was with Mike Seiden. Yes, exactly. But people are like, you said that in court. I did not say that in court. But it got their attention. They started paying.
Yeah. Do you still get a lot of flack for that, or is that like your top search? Or
because some people really think I said that in court, and I'm like, no. I had people DM me, "Where's the OnlyFans link?" Like, I was joking. And if I did do an OnlyFans, it would be me fully clothed reading some statutes.
Yeah. So how does the Public Defense Council find attorneys for this case? Do they like solicit attorneys, or how did you get involved?
Yeah, so basically a lot of attorneys know attorneys. So I knew somebody who actually worked at GPDC and they were desperate for appointed counsel because like I said, nobody was taking it for $1,500. For $7,500, most people are still like, no. Some people had enough experience to know that it was going to take at least a year. I didn't know that though. And so my friend who was desperate, she was like, please. I'll give you somebody who is probably going to maybe take a plea. I was like, okay, well, that's fine, whatever. That's not what happened. I'm okay with it. We have a good relationship, so it was worth it. But yeah, they were desperate for people. Yeah. I don't think they were able to find anybody for the last person until recently, actually.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people thought that maybe Rodalius would be the least likely to take a plea because he's already got this life sentence. So it was kind of like, what does he have? What does he have to lose? And then I've always kind of wondered how inmates are. I guess it just depends on the inmate, but wouldn't they rather go to court and have court every day than sit in a cell? But I thought it was interesting that Leah Abassi said when he was taking the plea that, you know, he didn't want to sit there and listen to that stuff anymore. And it had been the last couple of weeks they'd been talking about the Jamari Holmes murder and people had been testifying about it. So it seemed like to kind of weigh on him. Did you notice any kind of switch in that where it just started to become exhausting to go to court every day?
I did not notice that. That's why I was very surprised. I thought of anybody who wasn't going to take a plea, I thought it would be my client. I felt pretty confident that we were going to get a great verdict for him, just because of the way Leah Abassi questioned Detective Hogan, who didn't do any type of investigation. How I questioned Mariah the liar, and she just basically repeated everything that he said. And I was like, oh, they should realize by now that he shouldn't be in prison for this murder. So yeah, I thought we were going to go to the end.
And then the gang ties, because it seemed like so much the prosecutors were just focused on like proving an overt act. It's like this carjacking happened, this robbery happened, that kind of thing. And it's like this murder happened, but it's like, where are the gang ties on this? So I didn't see any kind of like attempt to do that.
I didn't see that either. I still to this day do not understand the motive of Mr. Holmes being killed. I'm just surprised. Well, Mariah the liar, she was definitely crying on the stand in his first trial. And she was making things up as they were going in the first trial. But I think this jury was able to see, even if they, like how she said her house was shot up.
Yeah.
I think in this trial, people were able to see if you just shoot up the house and there's only one bullet, they're bringing everybody to testify about it.
Yeah.
Everybody. And so they didn't bring anybody when she said, oh, my house was shot up a few times. And they never brought any evidence of that. So I think this jury could actually see like, that doesn't really make sense. But if that's your only case that you're seeing, you might be like, oh my gosh, these people retaliated against her, that poor girl. And that's not what it was.
Yeah. So the juror interviews that have happened, have you been surprised at anything the jurors have said?
Actually, yes, because of course the attorneys we have our own view. Like, okay, are they paying attention to this? Are they not? Did they catch this? Did they not? So it was actually, I didn't see like their entire interviews, but I seen like segments. And I like that they were noticing the same thing that we noticed, that people were getting dragged there that had nothing to do with anything. Nobody knows where RICO is, but I think we're still searching for it. The fact that they were using lyrics to, against Jeffrey Williams, which obscene. I mean, it's art. I think we all remember when we were all in like middle school, high school, talking about certain stories, and 30 kids could have 30 different viewpoints of what Shakespeare was saying. And nobody was wrong. It's just your opinion. And I think that's what they were doing when they were cherry picking these lyrics, putting Rodalius Ryan in it for what? What did we do for that case?
I remember we didn't really hear from you. He just didn't come up very much in the testimony a lot. But I think it was a couple months in, you had a short cross-examination of somebody. I can't quite.
Right. I remember because I saw your TikTok. You're like, oh, she makes her debut. I was like, I do this one time. I think one was Walter Murphy and the other one was Tick. I forgot his real name.
Trontavious.
Yeah, Trontavious Stevens, because Trontavious Stevens said he knew my client. And I was like, wait a minute, how?
Yeah.
And then he still wasn't able to answer when I questioned him. He was like, well, no. Right, because he didn't know him.
Yeah.
And then I was questioning, I think, is it Walter Murphy? Because I said in my opening how prison is horrible. And he had testified how he's been to prison. So I was like, perfect. Let me ask you about prison. So everybody can understand it. So that's about it. But nobody mentioned him though.
How was case prep? When did you first meet Rodalius? Did you go to the jail and meet with him, or?
Actually, no, because I got on the case so late. I didn't get on this case until November of 2022. Okay. And I believe they brought them all over in December of 2022. So I just met him there.
Okay.
And of course, me being his appointed counsel, or people say public defender, he doesn't know me. Of course, I don't know his case because I just received discovery, and it was on I think it was like on a 1 terabyte drive, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a lot. So he's like, you don't know my case. I'm like, I do not know your case. Give me a minute. And then the state and the judge wanted me to, do you need a continuance? Do you need a continuance? Because if I would have said I needed a continuance, this would have paused everything and we would have been able to go.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of lawyers in the background were helping me. And they were like, oh, no, we're going to help you, get up to speed. Don't worry about it. Let them handle the jury. I was like, okay. So the first few months, I was really focused on discovery.
Yeah. And how is it sorting through that? I mean, you just have a thumb drive in your laptop and you're opening the files and just figuring out what it is?
Yes, because I mean, if this is RICO, I'm assuming I'm about to see my client in like a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to quickly go through everybody's acts, but not enough to memorize it, just looking for my client's name, looking for his name and anything and everything, seeing if he's in one of the pictures. Because the Instagram, when they present it, of course, looks nice and neat for everybody else. But when we get it, it's about 10 to 20,000 pages per person.
Yeah.
So we're going through pictures, we're going through posts. I'm like, okay, do you have any other nicknames? Like, do I need to know anything else? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? So the first few months were pretty hectic. And then I was getting stressed out about money.
Yeah, that's got to be. And that's got to be somewhat unique to just Georgia's situation in the Public Defender Council. Is it pretty sparsely funded? You don't have really robust public defender offices, so you're kind of dependent on independent contractors like you?
Mm-hmm. Right. So the Public Defenders Council, like if you have an actual public defender, I mean, you're basically getting a law firm because you're getting at least 20 attorneys, you're getting investigators, you're getting a lot of support. When it's appointed counsel, usually it's just like a single attorney and it's probably their solo law firm. And we don't get those resources. So that's when you rely on your network of your own attorneys. Instead of an investigator, like going out to the scene to look at things for me, I'm going out to the scene. And, we were in court, Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
So Saturday and Sunday, I'm like, okay, well, let me go out to the scene. Let me see what I can see. Let me drive by some areas. Let me get to know Atlanta because I don't really know Atlanta like that.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. That was a lot. And then the people who were helping me, I couldn't pay them anything. They weren't getting paid, but they were just like, we want you to do a good job here because this is huge. So let's help.
Yeah. How did all the media attention and really the online social media attention, how did that increase awareness of your situation? Or did you get more offers of help as that was going on?
No.
No.
A lot of
don't back it up.
Right. Well, I think that's American culture, how we're more capitalist. So they're like, well, you should have taken the case if you can afford it. Right. But at the same time, justice is important.
Yeah.
And if I didn't step up, I don't think anybody would have stepped up. And then Rodalius Ryan would have just been stuck in prison, I feel like, indefinitely.
Yeah.
And that's not fair either. Like, I'll get money. He doesn't get his freedom. That's not, and I really wanted to show that he should not be in prison for this.
Yeah. And how is his appeal right now going? That's still pending, right? Brian Steele for Demont Blaylock.
Right. So his attorney is a public defender, but he doesn't need to do an oral argument unless the Supreme Court actually asks for one.
Okay.
So you can either request one or the Supreme Court will ask for one if they don't think your brief is clear. So we haven't heard anything yet. I'm still in touch with his attorney to find out what's going on, and nothing yet. But he feels pretty confident about it. And I don't do appeals, but if he feels confident, me too.
But the best case scenario for him on appeal is he either gets resentenced or a new trial. I mean, in a rare occasion, they might direct the trial court to enter a judgment of acquittal. But I mean, what are the chances of that happening here, right?
Right. Well, I think, because I remember my strategy going into this was we're just going to scratch on the surface of his case because I didn't think that they need to go in detail. And I just wanted to get it out there that something wasn't right. Mm-hmm. And so if he does get an appeal, it'll be for a new trial.
Yeah.
And maybe they might actually give him like a real offer that's just like maybe a time served, maybe involuntary manslaughter or something, which would still suck because he didn't do it, but at least it would get him out.
You would have the opportunity to really put Detective Hogan on the stand and really examine him again. Have you read the transcript for his first trial? Was there like a really robust cross of Detective Hogan in the first trial?
There was, but let's see. He never admitted that he never went back to the scene. It wasn't very clear that he wasn't on the scene when they collected 2 rounds of bullets, because they collected the second round of bullets after the whole scene had cleared. But they didn't talk about that in the first trial. I'm not really sure why. I think the biggest thing in that first trial was Detective Hogan was likable, and Mariah the liar said what she saw, which I don't think she saw anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how did the length of the trial, and then just the stress of, like you said, the money issues, and then wanting off the trial, how did that affect your relationship with Rodalius? Was it hard sometimes to come in every day and just have to sit there? Or
sometimes it was hard, only because there was a lot of stressors going on in the background.
Yeah.
I know sometimes he'd be like, "You're really trying to leave me?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Don't worry, I got it. I got you. Don't worry." I was like, at the end of the day, it's up to you. So I wouldn't let him tell me like whether he wanted to keep me or not. I'd be like, "Well, when the judge asks, you just tell him if you want me to leave or not." He'd be like, "No, okay."
Yeah.
So I think he kind of enjoyed knowing that he got to keep me.
He had that kind of power to just say no.
Right. Like, it was up to him. He's like, "I feel bad that you don't have the money, but like, who else is going to handle this?" I was like, "I mean, you're right." And so I think we grew to a really good relationship. I think being there for that long, I think most people, if you've ever been in the criminal justice system, you're not with your attorney for 2 years straight.
Yeah. That is a long time. Have you talked to him since the verdict? Do you know how he reacted to it?
I wish I could, but I don't trust the jail phones.
Yeah.
And he's like 3 hours away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did they take him back to a state prison? Was he in Rice Street for the trial and now he's back in a state prison? Or?
Yeah, he went to a state prison actually the day I got back. They transferred him. I was like, dang, because otherwise I would have went to go visit him.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even do that. I'm like, well, maybe I can write a letter, but I'm like, I think they're gonna watch it or read the letter. I don't want them to read my things.
Yeah. Well, when I talked to Trisha Renard, the jail or the trial
jury person,
consultant, he said that Rodalius was studying for his GED a lot during the trial when he had his notebooks out. That's what he was doing. Do you know where he is on taking the test on that?
I know he's already passed 2 of them, so he only has 3 more to go. But this RICO thing took him away from the course he was taking.
Okay.
So I bought him some GED books so he could just, kind of get a refresher.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he's back in that program. And I'm just hoping that he's good.
Yeah. The whole thing was such a long experience, and everybody was always struck by, how young he looked, just sitting there, and his, real lack of like direct ties to these.
There were zero ties. They just wanted us there because they wanted to keep showing that 15-year-old's dead body, really. Yeah. And I did not like that. I didn't appreciate that. I feel like they might have been able to find a real RICO.
Yeah.
But it wasn't with Rodalius Ryan.
Well, and I was always struck by how so much of his alleged crimes or the overt acts really just exposed how poor security was in the jail system. I mean, he was able to do all these things. Is that just kind of par for the course, or were there any surprises in the indictment about lax jail security?
No, I think a lot of people know that you could get a cell phone pretty easily, because just like lawyers don't really trust jail phones, neither do they. And so they do things like that. I mean, some people don't. I mean, they do horrible things with those jail phones, but for the most part, they just want to talk to their family without somebody listening in.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, he was 15? He's not as mature as a regular, like maybe 30-year-old who's in prison. So yes, he's gonna want to keep, posting things on Instagram, because why not? He's a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen jail TikTok. That's a thing. And get money on your book so it can make it a little less, jelly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the trial just stretched on for so long, especially during Glanville's comfort break marathons. But it seemed to be a real change when Judge Whittaker took over. How did your days change? I mean, you had to get to court earlier, longer days. How much of a change was it?
It was hard at first because I think with Judge Glanville, we got used to the long comfort breaks. We were used to the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And then with her, it was more Monday through Friday, not like basically 9 to 5. And 5 o'clock for me is extreme traffic. So it would take me about 2 hours to get home. And I just want to pass out and go to bed and then wake up the next day and do it again. So when she took over, I was very much exhausted.
Yeah.
But I was happy. It was like a catch-22 because I was very happy that we were getting through it. But I did kind of miss the breaks.
Yeah. I mean, it was just such an exhausting pace all of a sudden with the judge. But did you notice any kind of changes in the jury, or did you always think that they were kind of not buying the case, or how did that go?
I wouldn't say maybe in the beginning. If they would have presented their case probably in like 2-3 months, I think the outcome might have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, not for Rodalius Ryan, but I think it would have been a little bit different if they would have kept it short and concise. Because when we were talking about things in 2013 and then 2015, and then she'd go to 2014, then 2022, I was getting lost. I was like, wait, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
I remember I think the thing that stuck out of my head was the laundry thing, how they ran into a laundry mat or whatever because they robbed somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does this have to, how is this a RICO? It seems like these are just some bad kids just being bad.
Yeah.
And they can't drive. Right. Yeah. They can't drive. You never caught them and you're mad. So we're like, let's just throw a RICO on there. Like, what did that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be seeing like bank statements, like, oh, there's a hit on this day. And then there's like a bank statement that shows like money being withdrawn or deposited. And didn't see that. I thought I was going to see like CashApp statement. I didn't see what RICO.
Yeah.
I thought they would be following a money trail. And then when I'm learning like, okay, he's an international superstar. Why does he need to like run a gang? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It could be more profitable for him to run a record label than a gang.
Yeah. Well, did you start to sense ever that the case was just falling apart? I mean, you can't be too sure, but I mean, did you ever have a bad feeling about the jury or anything going forward?
Initially, once we finally got to the first murder, which was Nut, Donovan Thomas, because they went into detail about how he was killed, what the bullet did to his body. You saw the autopsy photos. And at that point, I was like, oh no, we are in trouble. If they think this is back, we still have like 2-3 other bodies to go. But then they didn't tell a short, concise story.
No.
And I think they murdered Donovan Thomas about 5-6 times. Like every week, I felt like he was being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to because they were trying to tie it in, and I think the jury kind of got lost in that.
Yeah, and then I thought it was pretty telling when they were trying to explain the family ties between who he considers a brother and Shell Kell, and they had Donovan Thomas's mother on the stand, and when she was going over the family ties, she got confused. It was like, okay, I think if the mother is confused about the family ties, the jury is going to be totally lost on this. Like,
right, exactly. Because I was like, so that's why at first I was like, oh no. And then when they kept doing that, and then the mom was confused, when they brought the guy out who had his head shot off and it was like caved in, I was worried about that because I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. That's horrible. But I was still like,
was that?
Yeah, I was like,
Montgomery, because he wasn't on camera, and you don't know for sure, but I think when you watch the testimony, you can see Young Thug's reaction. Like Jeffrey Williams kind of when the guy gets on the stand, because I mean, you can't see his head, but like half his head was blown off, right? Like it was kind of a gnarly scene, wasn't it?
I keep forgetting that you guys couldn't see it. So his head was like caved all the way in, and so it looked like a slope. He had a walking stick. He I think really, really, really bad eczema. So when he was walking, he was peeling as he was walking. He had shorts on.
Oh man.
he did soil the seat when he sat down. So when he got up, it was wet. That's why we had to have a jury break.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, a comfort break. It was really, really, really bad.
That's terrible.
And then when you hear him speaking, you can't even tell sometimes like what if he knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
So that was also when we were worried because that was like, ooh, that was bad. Like,
yeah, kind of drumming up the emotions from the jury.
Right. But then the thing is, it was just emotions. It wasn't like, this is RICO.
Right. And what always struck me about that is because, I mean, I'd hope everybody watching can agree that like that guy should not have been shot in the head. But I mean, Nard was convicted of that. And so was DK. And he went to prison for 6 years. He wasn't the one who fired the shot. He went to prison for like, what, 6-7 years for being in the parking lot, running through with like an AK assault rifle right before Nard shot him. I mean, the whole thing was crazy, but it's like, it seems like justice has been served here. I mean, Nard is serving how long for attempted murder for that, right?
Yeah, he got a lot of time, and then he was out on, I think, probation, I think maybe. But justice was served. Like, nobody's saying like, oh, why did they tell? Nobody is saying that.
Mm-hmm. But
it was already handled.
Yeah, the gang ties on that were always just like kind of lacking. I mean, although I can see they had so many overt acts. I can see them if they were going to whittle down the overt acts, maybe they would still want that one in there, but they just had way too much to go on there.
Right. They were just playing off of emotion. So that's when people started going, RICO where? Very good question. Because I think if they would have kept that complete, and then that one didn't really seem like a gang hit. That seemed like they were having some issues at the gas station. That was like a personal thing. That didn't seem like, oh, he's there, go get him. Like, it didn't seem anything like that.
Yes. So
I think the jury started realizing that too when that guy came out, and they were like, so what did you guys bring him for?
Yeah.
Like, every time we got worried, we kept looking at the jury like, oh no, we're worried. So are you guys worried? But then as they kept meddling up their own case, we were like, we're okay. Next.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of highlights the differences for us watching home. I mean, we don't get to see everything, but one difference I would notice is when you were watching online, it's, there's always people in the chat room and talking about the trial, and it's so lively. But were there times that it was kind of boring and just so quiet in the courtroom some afternoons? How was that?
I think there was a few days that I actually had to stand up and stand in the back because I was falling asleep because it was just so boring. It was just like, what are they even talking about right now? I can't even tell you what it was because it was so boring.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the viewership would even go down because they weren't really talking about anything. They dragged it on way too long.
Crazy. Did you know Adrian Love or Simone Hilton before this trial?
I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any of the lawyers either.
Yeah.
The only person I knew was, let's see, of course, Leah Abassi. She's my co-counsel.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I didn't know any. I think I heard of Jay App because when I was a public defender, he used to come in Clayton County like all the time. So I saw him. I didn't even know who Brian Still was.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody.
So how did you all work together? Did you have much time to work together? Were there meetings that you all had after court or?
Not really. It was like we worked together, but not really. Because at the end of the day, we wanted to separate ourselves from for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And once we realized that some people, like my client, had nothing to do with anybody else, all I learned from that was don't object to things, because if I object to something because I know legally I should, you might have wanted that information to come out and I just ruined your strategy.
Yeah.
So I learned, because I was doing I was bored and I was like, objection. And then I learned, like, don't do that. So working together, like just making sure you don't step on somebody else's toes, but maybe you might have to if it's for your client.
Was there one objection in particular that went awry, or can you remember?
I forgot, because I think I was objecting, and then during break they were like, "Can you stop?" I was like, "Oh, got it. Okay."
Right. That's always the challenge of a multi-defendant case. Like, how do you work together, but then how do you not? Especially in a conspiracy case, you don't want to make it look like all the lawyers are conspiring together. But
right, and we really were. I mean, they told me to stop. It's like, I think the people who might have had like things together might have worked together on certain things, but I didn't have anything with anybody. So I didn't work with anybody because
Yeah.
Damon Blaylock was severed, so he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I believe that's probably, and then there was another one who I know his last name was Beebe, but I forgot his full name. But yeah, Mr. Beebe, him and my client have one picture together, but he took a plea before, so there was all the young people were not with my client.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you hear Judge Whittaker's comments to Jeffrey Williams when he took the plea? She brought up Rodalius Ryan and said, we have a teenager killing another teenager. What did you think about her citing him like that?
I didn't like it because he didn't kill anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe Rodalius Ryan was like, oh, I listen to Young Thug, so I'm gonna have a gun in my hand. Like, they never said what type of music he was listening to. I don't know if it was even a Young Thug song sometimes. I don't think it was music that inspired him. I think it's just growing up in an impoverished neighborhood and you see who probably has the money or who has a car or who's getting out of the neighborhood. You see what they look like. So you just kind of mimic what you see.
Yeah.
I don't think he thought he was like Young Thug or anything, but I think he was under the impression if I keep talking to people in this neighborhood and Young Thug keeps coming around the neighborhood, not to promote violence, but to show like, hey, if I can get out, you guys can get out too. And if you hang around the right people, you too might be able to get into the studio.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't like her comment about that because I don't think Jeffrey Williams was showing the youth to promote violence. I don't think that's. I mean, when people are showing me pictures of him, he was wearing dresses. I don't know many gangsters that wear dresses.
Yeah. He had a. Well, I think everyone is wondering for for Jeffrey Williams moving forward, how strict is his probation going to be? And I talked about this like with Sylvia a little bit, just because she lives in Georgia and is more familiar with the system. But I mean, what's your impression of that? Is he going to have his probation revoked if he like wipes his nose, or what are we looking at here?
See, that's what I'm worried about as well, because we see what they use to have this whole case of RICO.
Mm-hmm.
In a probation revocation, the standard is much lower. So I was wondering that as well. Like, if he does this, is that going to be a problem? If he wears green, are they going to say he's promoting YSL? If he raps anything, if he's a feature, but maybe somebody else says something, but he's featuring and says something that like he doesn't say anything that promotes violence, but they do. Does that mean he's promoting it because he's on the song?
Yeah.
How many records does he have that he pre-recorded before he went to jail? Like, could he not release those now? Did he have like? I'm wondering as well, and I'm worried. I am a little bit worried.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Judge Whittaker is not gonna. She's reasonable, and it's not like she's gonna send them to prison for 20 years for something petty. It's gonna have to be some kind of major violation, not just perceived gang paraphernalia or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it seems like from what I've heard, in Georgia, it's not like if you violate your probation, that necessarily means you go to prison for the entire sentence. You could only get a couple years here and there or something, right?
Right. I don't know. I'm worried about him because when all the cameras are gone, I'm curious. Is she going to be more strict when the cameras are not there anymore?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Who knows? Are they going to say he did this and I don't know, some 12-year-old shot another 15-year-old and just because of him doing this?
Yeah. So somebody said his probation was transferred to Cali. I hadn't heard that for sure, but it's pretty much automatic. I mean, it even said in his probation order that if he wanted to transfer it to another state, he could. And
which would be smart since he basically got banned from Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, and that's I saw the Thugger Daily account saying that it's just tough for him because that's where his kids are. Like he has kids who I think live at that house that he was trying to get access to early on, and Whittaker made it so I think if he doesn't have any probation violations within 3 years, he can start going there. But that's 3 years from now. So
right. I mean, and that's his home. Like nobody wants to be banned from their hometown.
Yeah,
that's really hard. And of course, you can't keep flying all your friends to you because of course he has money, but who wants to keep paying money when it could have just been you going to Atlanta?
Yeah.
So let me bring all my kids and maybe some cousins, some friends. Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's just unfortunate that Georgia has that where they ban people from counties and stuff. Because imagine the people who get banned who don't have money, so they have to like get rid of their house or try to find a new place to live, set up new job and everything. That banning thing is just, I don't know. I think it's a little obscene.
Yeah, that's interesting to see like what the turnout rate is on that, how that affects people's lives, and if they end up screwing up other areas of their life because of that. But so how is this now that the trial's over? What are you going to do in the law? Are you looking to do more criminal defense? Or somebody was saying they heard that you were saying you were kind of done with it. But what do you want to do?
I mean, I am, but I keep getting dragged back in because, like, today I had a preliminary hearing. I keep showing up in all these criminal cases, but I wanted to do more like car accidents and immigration. I know with the new administration that's coming in, immigration is going to, they're going to need some help. And I'd rather maybe shift my focus on there. But it's like on a case-by-case basis for criminal. I prefer not to, though, because it was 2 years. That took it out of me.
Yeah.
See how low the bar is, but for criminal, the bar is supposed to be way up here, but they somehow brought it all the way down. The bar is in hell. It's crazy. Am I allowed to say that? Sorry.
Well, you just did, so we're good.
Sorry. So it was just kind of disgusting to see our criminal justice system like that. To see how hard it is to find a judge that could be fair and impartial. Like just be a referee and that's it. And for them to always tilt their hands into it, it was a little, it was disheartening to see how the DAs were acting towards the defense. I mean, I've never seen or heard of anything like it. Seeing Brian still held in contempt, seeing Attorney Menendez being arrested because he had pills that were prescription, but because they weren't in a bottle, they were arresting him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, so am I going to go to jail next? Or are they just taking us out?
I saw some of the jurors observe that they thought Adrian Love especially took everything too personally. And I definitely saw that. And I think you could say the same thing about some of the defense attorneys, but I think the difference is defense attorneys are kind of supposed to take things personally. Because you're supposed to be, I mean, you have a personal investment in defending your client, whereas the state is supposed to be more sober about it, like just applying the law, representing the community, that kind of thing. Whereas taking it personally seemed kind of not good for them. But how did you see that play out? Did she seem to make it more personal over the months?
Oh, absolutely. I think that ADA Love, that was basically her courtroom. And she was running the show. And because she was running the show, it dragged longer than it should have. When things would go left where somebody didn't answer the way she wanted to, then she realized she had to rehabilitate her office. And so instead of just sticking with the facts in 2013, now we're looking at the records of 2023 and 2022 to be like, oh, this detective is great because of this, this, and this. And we're like, we do not care. And so I think she spent, I forgot that one lady's name, but I know she was arrested because she had to come testify about like the single bullet in her house. I think I forgot her name.
Was that pretty early in the trial?
Yeah, it was a lady. I think Archillian Bennett.
Yes.
Yeah, Archillian Bennett. Like when she had to come in and she said that the investigator was hitting on her. I think I think that was like what 2-3 weeks of just trying to make it seem like her investigator was great.
Yeah, that was
crazy. And I think the jury got lost on that too, because at one point even I got lost. I think that might have been one of the times I fell asleep because I was like, wait, why is she still here? What are we talking about right now? Like I was half expecting the investigator to get on the stand, but he disappeared for about 2 months.
What about is it 409, the infamous juror 409, the alternate, who's given the interviews where she says she thinks they were guilty and she would have like caused a mistrial for a hung jury?
Right.
Does that surprise you? Did you think she was?
No, we didn't like her from I'm not going to say we. I didn't like her from the beginning because she was married to an officer. And she actually knew some of the officers that investigated some of the overt acts. And we were trying to say that there's no way she could be fair and impartial. But the DA, with the help of the judge, rehabilitated her, and she was able to stay on the jury, which was crazy.
Yes. Wow.
But the thing is, we kept her, which means there were way worse people than her.
Yeah. Yeah. How it's still amazing to me that they called a jury pool of 2,000 and then you selected the jury from the first 500. That just shows, okay, I don't think the judge is approaching this trial correctly, but it seemed like it was always just too big from the beginning. But were you there for every day of jury selection? You said you got on the case in November 2022, and what, jury selection started in January?
January 2023, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was there because I was one of the only people who didn't have co-counsel until May of 2024.
Yeah.
And so I was there like every single day, maybe except for 2. And I think one day we had to cancel court because I got sick and I had nobody to cover for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Guys, I canceled court.
Yeah. Well, this was such a huge case. I mean, it's like one of those career cases, and you're pretty early on in your career. What made you want to be a lawyer in the first place? Can you kind of talk us through your journey there?
I know people are not going to like this answer. My mom tricked me. I was in the military, and the military will pay for your school. And I wanted to be an insurance adjuster, actually. And my mom was like, well, I think you have all this free money. You're really smart. I think you should go to law school. I was like, I don't want to go to law school, Mom. No, I don't want to be in anybody's courtroom. Absolutely not. I was like, oh, well, just try. I was like, I'm not studying, but I'll take the LSAT just to, it's my mom. Of course, I can't say no.
Yeah.
So I took the LSAT. She was like, okay, well, just apply to some schools. I was like, I can't get into any school. She's like, just try. I was like, fine. And so I got into a few schools. I was like, oh, I think this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And so she was like, if you just move a little bit closer to me, I'll help you out with childcare, yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, here we go. And so I went into law school thinking I might do like administrative law, which is like Social Security or VA or something.
Mm-hmm.
And how did I get to criminal? That's a very good question.
What was your first criminal case?
My first trial was this one.
Oh, it was. Was this the first actual criminal case, or had you done like DUIs or?
Yeah, I was a public defender in Clayton County. Okay. And but I was there in 2020, so COVID. And so my specialty in Clayton County was preliminary hearings. So even though courts really stopped, preliminary hearings kept going. So I was doing preliminary hearings for like a year, and then I left and went to a private practice where he did a lot more family law and immigration. Yeah. And then I went to the Fulton County Solicitor's office. And then a few months later, I just opened up my own practice. So I did DUIs, immigration, what else? Like traffic citations, misdemeanors.
Yeah.
And then I was like, somebody begged me to do this felony, and here I did it.
When I was at the LA Daily Journal, the legal newspaper, they'd always talk about how solo practitioners, and they set out their own shingle and start their own practice. How is it doing that as a young attorney and getting clients? Because I mean, I've always heard that from all lawyers, that the biggest problem with being a lawyer is just how do you find cases and how do you find clients?
Right.
How do you do that?
So because I was in Gwinnett County, they don't have a public defender's office. They have appointed counsel. And so I would be in court like 4 days a week. And so people would hear the favorable pleas my clients were getting, or they would hear how certain charges were getting dismissed against my clients. So then people would want to hire me. And then for immigration, people saw, like, it's just word of mouth for immigration mainly. Mm-hmm. So when people were having their friends stay in the country, like, ooh, and then they would want to hire me for their immigration. So it's a word of mouth thing for sure.
Yeah. It sucks because didn't this raise your profile enough that are you getting more, hey, can you represent me? But you're kind of so burnt out on it, you don't want to.
Well, the phone has not been ringing, but I think that's mainly because a lot of people who are really, really interested were not really in Georgia.
Yeah, I can see that. They're like, hey, can you represent me? And they live in like Indiana or something.
Right. So I wish I could be where those people are, but a lot of people in Georgia, like, of course, they want like the Brian Still, Bruce Harvey, the big names. Yeah. They don't want little old me.
was such an eclectic mix at times, you know.
No, it was because every single attorney, like we have our own very distinct personality. And so I'm just kind of learning from everybody there. I realize my personality is never going to match a Keith Adams. I'm not outgoing like him. I can't get somebody from a car dealership to say, well, isn't that the same car? That was great.
Yeah, his cross-examinations. Early on, I started a YouTube playlist for just his cross-examination. So I wasn't surprised when the jurors were talking about how much they liked him. And like, if they were in trouble, they would want Keith Adams to represent him.
Absolutely. Me too.
I think when I interviewed Doug Weinstein like over the summer, he had remarked that the jurors all seemed to perk up when Keith Adams would get up to the podium. Did you notice that at all?
I perked up when he went to the podium. Yeah, because I think they knew like when certain people got up, it would probably be, in and out. Mm-hmm. So when I got up after, I think ADA Love did like probably 6 weeks on one witness, they realized that it would take me maybe 2 minutes. Oh, what happened to my camera? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
So, somebody, Kimberly Johnson says, who do you want to play you in a movie on the YSL trial?
Ooh. Okay. What is her name? It's the girl who used to play on One-on-One. I forgot her name. Is it Kimberly Pratt? No, that's not her name. Now you're gonna make me Google it. Oh my gosh. I think Angela Simmons looks like me. Nobody in the comments knows her name. Yes, Kayla Pratt. Thank you, Mixed Chick. Yes, Kayla Pratt.
Mixed Chick coming through. She's a member of the channel. We appreciate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she came through. Yes, Kayla Pratt or Angela Simmons.
Yeah, nice, great. Well, where do we go from here? Everybody's waiting on the appeal. I mean, what's next for the YSL lawyers post trial?
Well, for me, like I said, I keep talking to his to Rodalius Ryan's appeal attorney because his appeals attorney, he's a public defender, but he's the one who actually found that one of the victims in the car was shooting back. Okay. And there were 2 sets of bullets. So we know that it makes sense that somebody was shooting back. So he's gone through that. He probably knows the case maybe even a little bit better than me. And so I saw his brief. It was amazing. So I think he's going to get a new trial. And then when he gets a new trial, he's going to need, I think he's going to need more than one attorney to handle his trial because there's a lot of evidence.
Yeah. I mean, is this a possible self-defense argument, or if somebody was firing back, or is the story that he was never the trigger man on this?
I don't think he was ever there, and I don't think he was the trigger man. I think he was the fall guy.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people commented like when he was in his Instagram post with the gun, if that's the same gun that was supposedly used for that, he is not running anywhere with that. I'm sorry. Anytime he would have like did a shot, he probably would have got a lot of kickback on that. So I think that's why I keep thinking like if he is a new trial, I really feel like he'll get a not guilty.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, I know everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens with that. And then we saw the news yesterday where Shannon Stillwell was released, but Diamante Kendrick not so much yet because there might be an issue with whether there's a warrant out for probation. I mean, I heard the judge say that, but then I saw people later on saying, oh, there is no warrant. Have you heard one way or the other on that?
Yeah, we haven't heard. So we actually did a live on TikTok about this because so defense attorneys, we wouldn't know if somebody has a warrant. We're not privy to that information. And the only way that somebody would know is if you were to walk into a police department and ask for like a background check. Mm-hmm. And if you ask for a background check and you have a warrant, guess what they're going to do to you?
Oh, right. Because I was seeing some people like criticizing Kayla, saying, "Oh, Kayla should have known about the warrant."
No, there's no way.
How could she have known?
Yeah, there's no way. Like I said, either the client has to go get the background check, or we have to rely on the state to give us the correct and proper information. But there's no way she could have prepared for that. And he absolutely he can't go from jail to go walk in and be like, "Give me a background check."
Yeah.
And this trial has been publicized. Like, where was the probation officer for the past 2 years?
Yeah.
Like, that has to be insane to have a not guilty and you're still incarcerated. That is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's America justice in a nutshell.
Yeah, having those other cases. Well, he's out now though. So have you heard? Is there going to be a YSL wedding? Are we going to be able to tune into YouTube and see like you and Keith Adams and Brian Steele all kind of standing there as Kayla's dad is walking her down the aisle? I think that would be the event of the century.
That would be great, and I would definitely go to Texas for that. My dad lives in Texas anyway, so we should definitely do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure if you see all of us together, it'll be a lot of pictures. I am sure. Because we're basically family. Like, they're tired of me, but I don't care.
I see that. I mean, I've seen that in other trials that are so much shorter where the court staff and everybody, you all kind of become this dysfunctional family. And then if there's a guilty verdict and a sentencing later on, the sentencing is like a reunion. But have you guys all said you're going to stick together? Or do you feel like you have like mentors or people that you can turn to now in these other attorneys? Or
Well, absolutely. I could call any one of those attorneys that was on that trial at any time, and they'll come through for me every single time.
Yeah.
So I picked up a lot of mentors from that, and people I would have never probably spoken to ever. So that's awesome. You hear Doug always affectionately calls me his little sister. That's very true.
Yeah.
So he invites me to a lot of places. Like, everybody really looked out for me, and I really, really appreciated that. They knew it was my first trial. They were like, "We're going to make sure you look great." I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And they've been amazing. Yeah, they've been amazing.
Yeah. Well, I know it was inspiring for everybody to see. I mean, it's not just the different backgrounds of all the attorneys. I mean, like you said, maybe people just want like a Bruce Harvey who's been a lawyer forever, but I think it shows people that anyone can become a lawyer if you work hard and go to law school and try to put yourself out there like that. Is that
right?
Yeah. I mean,
I agree, because I always had like all these different color hair in my different braids or whatever, and nobody faulted me for that. They were like, "That's her personality. It is what it is. Let it go." I would keep my jacket on in court. They were like, "That's not proper." I'm like, "But it is very cold in here, so I don't know what you want me to do." If you can focus, you can definitely be an attorney. If you get the right mentor, because I have one and I see her in the chat, but I'm not going to say her name because she's going to get mad at me. But if you have great mentors, I mean, Leah Abassi has been one of my mentors. I met her in the Clayton County Public Defender's Office. Yeah, they have just helped me like through and through. They made sure I didn't embarrass myself when I did my cross-examination. They were like, no matter what she says, just keep cool. I was like, okay. So I took some steps not hints, but I took some inspiration from Brian Steele and Mr. Matthews, Carrington Matthews. Yeah. Because I think they're more my demeanor because they're more quiet. Yeah. But they get their point across.
And kind of the lesson was about not letting whatever the witnesses say affect you, kind of keeping the same kind of even-keeled tone.
Right, because that's what Brian Steele does. Yeah. Whenever he does his cross-examination, I think the only time I ever heard him yell when it was him and Judge Glanville.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
I think that's the only time I ever heard him yell. I think the only time I ever heard Mr. Matthews yell was when somebody was lying on his client. He was like, "Wait a minute." Yeah. But other than that, they were very like evil-killed. So I was like, I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah. Well, what else should people know about the trial? What else did you want to tell people about the YSL trial or being an attorney?
Well, I think some of the biggest lessons, because this was so highly publicized, imagine the people who are in RICO cases that have evidence way less than this and they're getting convicted.
Yeah.
Because nobody is checking the judge. Like, you can't do that. Nobody is looking at the DA like, wait, what are you guys doing here? So the DAs don't have to answer to anybody. The judges don't have to answer to anybody. I mean, if they felt that comfortable doing an ex parte hearing in Fulton County in a highly publicized case, imagine what they're doing to your regular Degler Joe. There are a lot of people that are sitting in prison who should not be in prison. I think we saw all the people who came in after they signed like a guilty plea for the RICO charge. How many people were like, well, I didn't mean it like that. That's not what I said. All these things. And we saw Montunk get he got 5 years because he supposedly didn't tell the truth. It's not because he was lying, but his mother was dying. So he just wanted to get out of jail.
Yeah.
So people don't take pleas because they're guilty. It's just circumstances that are happening at the time. Because imagine if he would have stuck it out 2 years later, it would have taken 2 years. His mom would have passed away when the trial first started. So people aren't taking pleas because they're guilty. So don't judge people based on their guilty plea, their past, or what they're being charged with, because your charge does not make you. That's not who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think this trial really highlighted what all goes into a guilty plea. I mean, just it started with Trontavious Stevens when Brian Steele would ask him about the conditions he was facing in jail. I remember he asked him about his 3 kids with 3 different mothers, and the question was like, when you were in jail, were you able to provide them support and talk to them? It's like, well, obviously no, you know.
Right.
I think that really matters. So at least we had some awareness for the injustices within the criminal justice system, it seems.
Right. Because I mean, they like that ex parte thing, when they felt that comfortable, I was like, okay, world, I need you to understand. Maybe the county next door, they feel comfortable with this, and people are getting railroaded every day, all day. Yeah. My client got railroaded to his guilty plea because people believed Detective Hogan. And we see he didn't even investigate anything. He told the girl what happened, and she was like, yep, that's right. That's what happened, whatever you say. Because some shocker, nobody wants to go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. What about this new lawsuit that Shannon Jackson is in, the proposed class action against Fulton County for jail conditions? Is there much hype in the criminal justice system about that in Atlanta? Do you guys think you're going to get somewhere?
We're happy because we're like, finally, somebody is saying it. Yeah. And because he was part of this case, of course, everybody knows him now. So now people can put a face to the name. People are like, oh, well, he was found not guilty of all these charges. So now I think people are realizing there might really be some innocent people that are suffering in these conditions.
Yes.
And even the people who are found guilty, they shouldn't be in those horrible conditions because it's supposed to be rehabilitation.
Yeah.
So it's a punishment, but it's supposed to be rehabilitative, not we're supposed to stress you out to the point of you'll do anything to get out of here.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said about plea deals being forced through like duress because you're in jail and you just want to get out.
Right. Like even when Judge Whitaker basically paused the proceedings until somebody took a plea.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there in those horrible conditions, and we don't know when we're going to start again until somebody takes a plea. So it's like, okay, somebody take a plea then.
Yeah.
We can get started.
Do this trial again. Was there talk that amongst the defense attorneys about whether it would be good to have her declare a mistrial with prejudice? I know I've asked this to Max Shard, and there's just seems differing opinions. He was pretty adamant that he didn't want a mistrial with prejudice because he didn't want to have to start over. But I also wonder if that would have been, like, psychologically, it would have messed up the prosecutors to have that happen. They probably would have retried it, but I mean, can you imagine them trying to get Tick back on the stand to testify again? I mean, the case really could have fallen apart. Did you guys talk about that at all?
Not together. So when that happened, that's when everybody went very separate ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, I mean, a mistrial would have been fine for me. Yeah. Because they're not trying Rodalius Ryan again. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Especially after we realized that Hogan didn't investigate. Mariah is a liar.
Yeah.
Like, I was locked in the basement, but I didn't tell anybody for 2 years. Girl, what?
Yeah.
Nobody does that. So I didn't think that they would try Rodalius Ryan again. And I think we saw that when after the first YSL people went, they dropped the charges against his co-defendant, Damon Blaylock.
Yeah.
So I was fine with a mistrial because I was like, you guys aren't doing this again.
Yeah, exactly. You want to kind of almost call them on their bluff, but
right.
So many people have such different situations. You know, you can't really blame anyone for taking a plea, and then hindsight is always 20/20. And if you're not the one sitting in jail, it's pretty easy to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. He's out of jail, so he won something. But
and then because of the schedule, by the time that I know our clients were getting back to the jail, they were missing dinner. They weren't able to get on the phones because the phones were over at that time. And so you're basically getting from court all day sitting there, uncomfortable in a cold courtroom, to get back, and you just have to go to bed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, understandable. We're not in their shoes, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, what else? What didn't we cover that you wanted to talk about? Is there another big aspect? here?
Oh, I could do my soapbox thing about public defenders.
That's part of our Constitution, right?
Right. Because a lot of people feel like if you have a public defender, you're not getting a real attorney. And that is so frustrating for me because the majority of your public defenders care about your case probably a little bit more than you do, because they're seeing it day in and day out with people being railroaded, and they want to do anything in their power to make sure that you don't get railroaded.
Yes. Yeah.
They have their, like I said, they have their investigators. You have like a team of 15, 20 attorneys at any given time that are touching your case. You won't ever get anybody like inexperienced to work on your case. Like, oh, my public defender didn't know anything. That's not true. Yeah. Maybe they just got your case when they sat next to you, but I guarantee you by the time you get ready to go to trial or the next time they talk to you, they will know your case like the back of your hand. I think it's more so when people get a public defender, they're not forthcoming about what they want to tell their attorney.
Yeah.
So we're getting caught off guard with oh, why didn't you tell me about that? Oh, I thought you knew my case. It was okay. Just tell your attorney everything. And then that way they can be better prepped. Like I said, a public defender is going to be in your corner 10 toes down every single time because they probably have more trials under their belt than your average attorney.
Exactly. I've always said that if there's like a young attorney that works solo and doesn't have background at a public defender's office or a DA's office, it's probably because they tried to get a job there and couldn't get hired. Those jobs are actually kind of in demand.
They are. I love that was my first job. Like I said, I met a ton of great people, learned a lot of different strategies. I wasn't scared to walk onto this case because I was like, okay, if my client doesn't take a plea, I know these people in the background have me.
Yeah.
Like they won't be in the forefront, but I know if I got them from the public defender's office. Leah Abassi, public defender, she was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't understand why people have that terrible ideology about public defenders. And as a public defender, I remember we used to see a lot of private attorneys take people's money and never show up to court.
I can see that. Private attorneys can be quite scammy, much more so than public defenders. What's the SCOTUS? Isn't there a Supreme Court decision that established the right to a public defender? I have a friend up in Spokane, Washington, who like has it tattooed on her arm. She's a public defender.
I can't believe I'm forgetting this case. This is horrible.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to pardon me, but
oh no, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot believe this because I used to know like the back of my hand because he wrote his own motion because he didn't have an attorney, and they were like, yes, everybody is entitled to a public defender.
Oh, Gideon versus Wainwright.
Thank you. Yes, it's Gideon. Yeah. Yes, that was the case that was like everybody deserves an attorney, especially when you're in prison or jail because more than likely you're not earning any money.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to have an attorney so they can file those motions for you to make sure you're not messing your own case up.
Yes. So in defense of public defenders everywhere, we'll end on that note. But gosh, thank you so much for taking so much time to talk with us about the trial and kind of give us an inside look at everything that went on.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate that. I'm like a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
Yes, because I'm a fan of Meghann the Stallion.
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much going on with her right now.
I know. So that's how I first heard about you, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, she gets to interview me. I was like, oh my god.
Reporter.
Yes. So I was fangirling a little bit.
Nice.
So excited to meet you. Oh my gosh, you have no idea.
well, let's stay in touch. And then this is a little ambitious of me, but somebody in the chat earlier was giving the Oregon Ducks shout out. And I went to school there, and the college football team is doing well. And if they play in the national championship, apparently the national championship game is in Atlanta. I'm like, I might have to go to that. So I might be in Atlanta in January or something.
Oh my God, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll probably
love to meet you in person. Oh my gosh.
Sports fan stuff, but maybe we can all get together for coffee or something. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be great. I have to take you to Gwinnett County. It's like an amazing up here.
I'd love it. I'd love to see Georgia. So great. Well,
yeah, thank you so much for having me. If you get in a car accident, call me.
I will, definitely in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much for tuning in. See you guys later.
Bye.